Good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the inaugural episode of Everything Sports with TB and JB. The Bruneau Boys.
What's up?
It's Jonah. I'm Terry. We're going to be going over a bunch of sports with you. We're going to cover pretty much everything. Obviously, we're covering some sports more than others based on what's going on this time of year. With baseballs coming up into the midseason mark. We got the All-Star game coming up next week. The NFL is obviously off. The NBA, we'll talk about free agency a little later. Tennis, Wimbledon, they were off on Sunday. Back at it. They were back at it on Monday. And then the British Open's coming up. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we'll talk a little bit more about baseball. But first off, we're going to talk about NASCAR. Daytona. This last Sunday, the July race, or Saturday, it was a Saturday night race. So it was a really, really good race. Crash marred race. Eric Jones got his first win of his career and did it in pretty much electrifying manner. Jonah, talk about race.
I thought it was a great race. I think most people would say it was a pretty good race. Honestly, though, in the middle of the race, all the wrecks are going on, and I was getting upset. I think you were too, right? You were getting upset.
Ricky was killing me.
Oh yeah.
Stenhouse, man, he just.
Yeah, and I think the drivers felt the same way too.
Yeah.
They weren't really agreeing with him, but yeah, after that point when all the wrecks are going on, the race kind of calmed down. It calmed down for a while until the end, obviously, which is when the wrecks are supposed to happen. Double overtime, yeah. And Jones, I mean, he survived everything, so I mean, he's pretty.
That's the right word for sure.
He's pretty deserving to get that one.
Yeah, I think it was cool, and then he got a huge push from Buescher. And Allmendinger. I think gave him a push behind and really pushed him. First overtime, we were thinking, oh great, it's going to be another Harvick win, because he was in control at that point, and he was the favorite to come out of there, and he just got smoked. So then we were thinking Truex, because his car was pretty good. He was just sandbagging all night trying to avoid all the wrecks.
Remember, he lost the draft and then somehow caught him back and then started making passes going to the
by himself. He was leading that
by himself.
That run on the bottom.
And
just the wrecks were the bummer for me was just the wrecks. I mean, with Ricky causing those two main wrecks, I mean, it wiped out 75% of the good part of the field. So 8 of the top 12 guys, or 9 of them were knocked out in those two wrecks, and it was sort of like a who's who is what's left, and
and what was upsetting about that, the wreck's gonna happen obviously, but it wasn't even halfway yet. So it's just you kind of
way too early, too aggressive. And at the end of those two wrecks, I mean, you're looking at Truex and Harvick and Bowyer. I think were the only maybe 3 of the top 12 guys that were left. I mean, there were some good. There was a couple other good guys in there, but they weren't. They're on the bubble. Chase contenders. But so, anyways, that was good. That was Eric Jones. It was a great race. It was very entertaining. Even with the wrecks and everything. So it was
creates opportunities for the lower income teams. Always.
Absolutely.
So that's also fun to watch.
But so Eric Jones in the winner's circle, he moves on to the chase. He's locked in.
First career win.
Yep, first career win. Couple other things about the race. I thought, what do you think of Junior in the booth?
I think first 2 weeks, he couldn't have any better races to announce.
I know, right? He's I think he's fitting in great. Steve Letarte, he's still part of the broadcast, but he's not in the booth with them. And I thought the 3-man booth they originally had was really good, but I think adding Dale just puts him over the top, and it keeps Letarte in there because it's nice to hear feedback from a crew chief on what's going on through their perspective. So I thought the coverage was really good.
You go from first week Chicagoland, was what's being considered like one of the best finishes in a long time. The quote, slide job.
That was cool.
And then now you come to Daytona, where he's known for. So I mean, that's a pretty good start to a broadcasting career.
So I mean, based on what anybody was watching, if anybody caught the race, I mean, Daytona is usually a big deal. It's not the February race, but it's still a big one.
Fun Daytona
race.
race.
So that was a fun race at least. There wasn't much going on this weekend, so but that's a good way to start the show here. We'll be right back. We're going to talk a little bit about the MLB All-Star snubs. We'll talk about some mid-season awards, who we think is running for MVPs in both leagues, and Cy Youngs, and we'll get some more predictions out there, and we'll be back in a minute.